There's this really common piece of Arkham discourse that gets repeated all the time. You've probably heard it before. Arkham Asylum has the best atmosphere, Arkham City has the best story, Knight has the best gameplay, and Origins has the best boss fights. Now, to be fair, those takes didn't come from nowhere. In a lot of cases, they're actually pretty valid and hard to argue with. But as someone who spent an unhealthy amount of time thinking about these games, I started wondering about something else. What is each Arkham game's actual best feature? A little caveat to preface this discussion though, I'm not taking anything away from the features often labelled as the best, more presenting ideas on what I personally think each game's best other feature is. For example, if I say gameplay is City's best feature, that doesn't mean I think Knight's gameplay is inferior, just that City's best feature is its gameplay. Now, I should say this video isn't entirely new. I've actually done a similar video to this a while ago, but it was pretty crappy and no one saw it. But this video was mainly inspired by a video by ClownPuncher139 that he made a few years ago, which I'll link down below so you can check out what he thinks each Arkham game is actually good at, because it's not only a great video, but we have very different answers, so you can kind of contrast and compare. The answers can be anything from gameplay to character design, and for the sake of keeping things simple, we'll be covering Origins, Shadow, Asylum, City, and Knight. Which, sorry to disappoint you Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League fans, all three of you, but we won't be covering that game here because we all know it has one redeeming feature, and that's the merciful release of its end credits. So without further ado, leave a like to help the video out, and let me know if you disagree or agree with me down below, and tell me what you think the series' individual entries excel at. And without further ado, let's get into it. Kicking us off, Batman Arkham Origins, and if the common debate is to be believed, its strongest point are its boss fights, and this is obviously the peak of the series in terms of boss fight. But let's be real, it doesn't have much competition outside of a couple of Arkham City's fights. I mean, Deathstroke is an iconic brawl and arguably the benchmark that was never reached again for hand-to-hand fights in the series. Bane had like 3 separate awesome fights, technically having 2 hand-to-hand fights, accompanied by his absolutely magnificent stealth fight. Copperhead is brilliant and a great homage to the psychological warfare Scarecrow engaged the Dark Knight in the bowels of Arkham Asylum, and the rest of the fights are good to great, with the pinnacle for me being Firefly, who has the honour of having one of the best set pieces in the whole series as he attacks the Gotham Bridge. Anyway, with that all being said, I think it would be pretty hard to argue that what Arkham Origins' actual best feature is its characterizations and how it handled its characters. We can point at nearly any character in this game and pretty confidently say that they were handled the best here, so let's start with the titular character, Batman. In games prior to Arkham Origins, we'd seen stoic physical beast genius Arkham Asylum Batman, and stoic physical beast sick genius Arkham City Batman. So coming into Arkham Origins, it could be fair to assume we'd get more of the same. But no, this Batman is younger, angrier, and for once, doesn't know how to handle the challenges in his way. There's arguably no better way to define a younger Batman than as a man who hasn't quite figured out where he fits in the world yet. He's still trying to build the myth of the Batman while running what is, at this stage, a completely one-man war on crime. And Arkham Origins absolutely nails that version of the character. This Batman makes mistakes, he knocks people out he's supposed to be questioning, he refuses help even when he very clearly needs it, he pushes away the few people in his life who are actually trying to support him, and all of it is wrapped up in this cocktail of anger, arrogance, and an almost reckless level of self-confidence, even when he's staring down odds that would make most people walk away. The more I talk about Arkham Origins Batman, the more I love what they did with the character. This is a deeply flawed man who genuinely believes, in his own words, he is the quote-unquote reason criminals breathe easier when the sun rises. And although that may be partially true, much like most earlier Batman, whether it be Robert Pattinson's 2022 portrayal, or Batman Year One's iconic take on the Dark Knight, he believes he can rule the city through fear, and really be the sole thing standing between the organised and not so organised crime of Gotham and the innocents that inhabit the city by simply punching his way through the problems. And it's in the moments where he learns that not only is fear not the be-all and end-all of his impact on the city, but he needs to let people help him, that he starts to learn where he stands in the world and what it really means to not only shoulder the weight of a crime-ridden city, but what it means to be the Batman. Outside of the titular Dark Knight, we can look at Bane, whose characterization feels like it's been spoken about to death by the Arkham community, including myself, by the way. I'm not immune to some Bane blazing, if you will, but all jokes aside, we all know how extraordinary Bane is in this game. He is, well, Bane, the man who broke the Bat physically and mentally, and actually outsmarted him in this game pretty brutally. Alfred is great, obviously being a moral anchor for his misguided and reckless LARPing son, and I don't think it's an overstatement to say this is Alfred's best showing in the series. Between the dry British humour he brings to the story and the iconic argument scene with Bruce, right through to him showing he can climb the mountain and win against the worst Gotham has to offer, but to do so he needs to let Alfred help him. He teaches him the biggest lesson he can in that moment, and that is simply, no man is an island. We can also point at Joker, who perfectly encapsulates that man who laughs style of criminal. He just does stuff for the sake of proving to the world he's more aware than any of them. He quickly becomes enamoured by the idea of Batman, and by the end of the night comes to see what we all know: they'll be doing this forever. Other characters like Jim Gordon, Firefly, the Penguin, and Enigma are also handled really well, showing the fact that the team at WB Montreal really did their research and not only cared about these characters, but wanted to do them justice. Justice that characters like Bane and Jim Gordon perhaps hadn't been done in Arkham Asylum and City. That's enough of Origins though. What about the newest member of the Arkham family, Batman Arkham Shadow? Well, Arkham Shadow was a bit of a harder game to follow the same line of thinking for. See, Arkham Shadow is by far the least played of the series at the moment, and because of this, the jury on which is its outright best feature is still out. So rather than going for something obvious like the second to none gameplay or the genuinely amazing story, I've decided to go for a bit of a rogue pick: the challenge maps. Challenge maps have always been a part of the series since Arkham Asylum, and we've had some pretty legendary entries. 100 to 1, Top of the World, Silent Night, Funhouse Brawl, the list goes on. And honestly, most of them are fun, memorable tests of the player's ability. Even the ones people seem to struggle with are remembered as fun little ROMs, and I think Arkham Shadow does challenge maps so well. The reason they stick out to me might be because of how downright addicting Shadow's combat and predator mechanics are to play around with, and these serve as the best way to use them repeatedly. But maps like the Infinite Combat map and Big House Revival both stick in my brain as such fun and well designed maps. That's the key here, they're all well laid out, provide a good challenge, and if you master the mechanics, something I sure as hell haven't done, you can find yourself lost in these maps for hours. None of them feel like a slog to play through either, and because of the excellent amount of love, attention, and overall care the team at Camouflage put into these maps, it just makes the experience one of pure Batman heaven. It also helps that Camouflage opted to bring back 4 classic maps and remake them to fit Shadow's style. Those 4 maps being Silent Night and Crane's Nightmare from Arkham Asylum, Natural Selection from Arkham City, and Quiet Waters from Arkham Origins, all brought into the current generation and given a complete visual overhaul to better fit in with what Camouflage had built in Arkham Shadow. All of Shadow's challenge maps feel like real tests of skill, and above all else are faithful, enjoyable times, which don't send you off the deep end while trying to crack your high score. I can definitely see the argument this is far from Arkham Shadow's best feature, but given that the story, gameplay, and groundbreaking nature of the game are all pretty highly regarded as its main selling points, I thought going for something a little bit more off the cuff would be fun. Alas, let's move on to Arkham Asylum. Now, Arkham Asylum. What can I say about Arkham Asylum I haven't said in countless videos before? For me, it's the gold standard of the Arkham series. It's arguably one of the most atmospheric and eerie pieces of Batman media put to anything ever. It really is that good. Arkham Asylum is the only game in this list which I think it's downright factual that it has the best atmosphere in the series. The word atmosphere gets thrown around a lot by people who maybe misuse the word, but here the dark, gothic, claustrophobic feeling the game still invokes all these years later is undeniable, and it still makes me feel something to this day, which I think is a testament to the work Rocksteady did to make Asylum as iconic and as memorable as it is. But all of that aside, side. I'm going to try and argue against myself here for the sake of the video, but I think Arkham Asylum's other best quality is actually a surprising one, and one we don't really give it enough credit for, and that is its world building. That might sound odd, but take this all within the context of it being the first game of the series and being set on one island. After all, we don't leave Arkham Island apart from, I guess, the Crime Alley challenge map, if that even really counts. But the point is, we don't actually ever leave the island, yet the world building Arkham Asylum does is excellent and begins from, well, the beginning. It drops us into the shoes of an older, experienced Batman, rightly assuming the player doesn't need a recap of Batman's origins. Hell, Batman Begins had released 4 years prior, and The Dark Knight was only a year old when Asylum graced our screens, so general audiences were pretty well adjusted to the murder of the Waynes and Batman's early years, although we still get a flashback of that anyway, thanks to Scarecrow. What I'm trying to say is, for the first game in the series, the game sets up an established Batman and Joker and their relationship, Jim Gordon and his working relationship and friendship with Batman, and it gives us Oracle, whose character bio mentions her time as Batgirl, which itself implies the existence of some form of Robin, and you could go on and on through this line of thinking. It's so well done and never feels like characters for the sake of character's sake. And we even get glimpses of the island's origins through the Arkham Chronicles, which just adds another layer of supernatural flavour to this already outstanding world we find ourselves in. And it's in the small details, the beheaded Constance Arkham statue in the gardens, the secret room in the warden's office, Clayface in the penitentiary, Scarecrow's hidden lair, that Arkham Asylum is able to say a lot, but also say nothing explicitly. And that is one of my favourite things about this game. Through the patient interview tapes, we also get a look behind the curtain at events which we never got to see, and due to the presentation, these being presented as lost tapes recorded by staff members, it almost feels like we're listening to something we shouldn't be hearing, which adds yet another beautifully crafted layer of unease to the game. We can hear Harley and Joker's supposed first meeting, Zsasz kidnapping Dr. Cassidy, Killer Croc and Aaron Cash's rivalry stemming from the underrated classic Arkham Asylum Living Hell, and it all adds up, and we can confidently form a version of the iconic Arkhamverse in our heads just from these. We also get references to stuff outside of the boundaries of Arkham Island. Nightfall is directly referenced by Bane while fighting Batman, so again, without context we'd get in future games, we know some form of Nightfall happened, which implies so much, and given Oracle exists, we can deduce the Killing Joke happens in some form. We can also see a billboard advertising the Penguin's Iceberg Lounge, which is a key location in the wider Batman universe, and we know Ra's al Ghul exists, and thus the League of Assassins, thanks to his body being in Arkham's morgue, which could mean so many different things. It's just perfect, and in my opinion, as a standalone game, Asylum is the peak of the series in that you could have never engaged with any Batman media leading into or after this, and you'd get so much knowledge and fun tidbits of exposition given to you about the wider Batman universe, from which you can really let your mind run wild with the storytelling possibilities of. And so for those reasons, for me, Arkham Asylum's other best feature is its stellar world building, which laid the foundations for the future of the franchise. And although a lot of it is now non-canon, the main story probably being the only definitive canon part of the game, it's brilliant and handles the Batman name with the respect it deserves. But what about Arkham City, what many people consider the peak of the series? Arkham City might be the best game in the series in many people's eyes, and because of that, it has a lot of different selling points that could be seen as its best feature. The popular stance is that the story is the cream of the crop, but aside from the fact I don't really think this is the case at all, I think Arkham City's best feature is actually its gameplay. Just on the surface level, movement-wise, we get access to the grapnel gun boost, which is a way to enhance the gliding in Arkham Asylum. We can go higher and further and faster than ever, and when it's combined with the newly added dive bomb, it's just such a welcome addition, and one that serves the new expanded map. And on top of all of that, you've got the free flow combat gadgets, which slot perfectly into the already seamless rhythm of the combat system. Tools like the Batarang, Batclaw, Freeze Blast, Explosive Gel, and the Wreck Gun can all be upgraded and woven directly into a combo, letting Batman stun and control the enemies all fighting to kill him. Then you've got some of the more devastating upgrades. The Bat Swarm, a fan favourite upgrade, can instantly daze the thugs surrounding Batman and give you breathing room in the middle of a chaotic fight. The multi-ground takedown is another big one, letting you suddenly flip the momentum of a brawl within seconds. And of course Disarm and Destroy, which might be one of the most satisfying upgrades in the entire series, allowing Batman to rip weapons straight out of the equation mid-fight and level the playing field instantly. These are all pretty big additions, and some which the Arkham games would almost feel empty without. The combat though seems to be the pinnacle of this. It all feels so smooth, and much like basically every other part of Arkham City's core gameplay, it works to improve the foundations laid out in Asylum. But that isn't to say the stealth encounters are bad. In fact, in stealth encounters we can truly take out enemies however we want. Fast and hard, or slow and methodical. Stealth might be the biggest upgrade in terms of gameplay features. The difference between Asylum and City stealth is absolutely night and day. In terms of gadgets, we have a Disruptor, the Wreck Gun also proves useful. Hell, basically every gadget proves useful. And to me that's the beauty of Arkham City's gameplay. Everything seems to be multi-purpose, from the gadgets to the movement to the combat to the stealth. It's all polished and all great, and because of this, Arkham City's stealth encounters truly feel unique and like the ultimate predator and prey dynamic. Arkham City's on-foot gameplay is revolutionary. It not only builds on Asylum, but adds so many new and fun-to-use mechanics, and still, well over a decade later, it somehow doesn't feel outdated. City's ability to make Batman feel powerful, but not all-powerful, while still keeping him fun to use, cements the gameplay, for me at least, as Arkham City's best feature. Let me know which game you think has the best gameplay down below, because I know some people prefer the fluidity of Knight, while others prefer the more grounded style of Arkham City. Although, given the multi-ground takedown exists, I use the word grounded very loosely. Finally, Batman Arkham Knight, the most played game in the series, and somehow also one of the most divisive. Yet, at the same time, it might be the one hardcore fans love the most. From a pure gameplay perspective, it is the best the series ever got. Everything feels refined to a razor's edge. Combat, stealth, traversal, it all flows together in a way earlier games were clearly building towards. And visually, it still looks ridiculous. Even 11 years later, Arkham Knight can stand up alongside most modern releases. There's something strangely timeless about it. The lighting, the rain-soaked streets, the sheer detail packed into Gotham. It all gives the game this evergreen quality where you can boot it up today and it still feels pretty current, and for me that is its other best feature. Arkham Knight released in 2015 and still to this day is the most played game in the series, with the game capping out at nearly 3,000 concurrent active players on any given day. And for an 11-year-old single player game, that is insane. It has 3 times that of Arkham Asylum, City and Origins, which all cap out at around 1,000 a day, give or take 100 either way. I've said it a lot on this channel, but Arkham Knight really feels like the Batman game, even discounting mods. It has the most playable characters, the best gameplay, a drivable Batmobile, and enough rogues to fill an entire city. And while we're talking about the city, the Gotham City we get to drive, fly, and run around in is just beautiful, and certain parts of the city are some of the most beautiful environments I've ever seen. Not only is the city beautiful, but the pure amount of content available in Arkham Knight is ridiculous. It has 14 side missions, 1 main story, 4 additional side missions, Red Hood, Nightwing, Harley Quinn, Catwoman, Batgirl, and Robin all get their own respective DLC stories, which adds another few hours of content between them. There's then countless challenge maps, both combat and stealth. It has racing challenges, nearly 50 cosmetic skins in the base game, different playable Batmobiles, a new game plus mode, and when you combine all of this with stellar gameplay and gorgeous graphics, you get the genius concoction of Batman splendor that is Arkham Knight. I'd also be doing a disservice if I didn't give a shout out to the modding community, because they've played played a massive role in keeping this game alive and thriving. Even all these years later, there are countless suit mods being uploaded almost daily, new gameplay tweaks are constantly being experimented with, and characters like Nightwing have received full overhauls that genuinely make him more fun to play as. And it doesn't stop there either. New Batmobiles are already out, most are currently in development, and honestly, it feels like we've only just scratched the surface of what Arkham modding can actually do. With people like GP Unity working on full gameplay overhauls for Arkham Knight, projects like this practically guarantee the game will still be getting played and talked about years down the line. And as someone who's been a Batman fan for as long as I can remember, seeing that level of passion and creativity is honestly a really cool thing. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and let me know what you think each game actually does best down below, and of course tell me how wrong I am and how little I really know. I hope you liked the video, drop a like if you did enjoy it, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.